Hey guys, today we have a 2025 Mazda 3 Turbo hatch. In this video, I'll talk about what the Mazda 3 is, how I feel about the interior space, and what it's like to drive it. Believe it or not, the 4th generation Mazda 3 has been with us for over 6 years, and even with its veteran status in the segment of compact cars, it has aged very well, and it proves that a clean and simple design is timeless. But the design isn't everything, as the Mazda 3 has to compete with segment leaders such as a Honda Civic or a Toyota Corolla, so let's talk about some technical stuff first. The 4th generation Mazda 3 sits on the SKYACTIV front-wheel drive platform, meaning it has a strut front suspension and a torsion beam in the back, combined with regular passive dampers. Now, using the torsion beam might be a surprising approach, as many rivals use a multi-link setup, but Mazda argues that with the budget constraints, they wanted to develop better torsion beam rather than cheaply design a multi-link. I'll leave that up to your interpretation. As of powertrains, we have two choices, and they are pretty powerful. We get a 191 horsepower naturally aspirated 2.5-liter 4-cylinder, or a turbo variant of that engine, which, depending on the fuel you put in, either makes 227 horsepower on regular or 250 horses on premium gas. 99% of the time you will find the 3 with a 6-speed automatic, however, a 6-speed manual is still offered with a naturally aspirated engine. All-wheel drive is optional in models with naturally aspirated engine. The turbo gets it as standard. Now, before we talk what it's like to drive the Mazda 3 or zoom it, let's take a look inside and talk about the interior space. Okay, inside the Mazda 3. Now, if you look at the cabin of any new Mazda products, you'll notice one thing about them. They're aesthetically pleasing spaces with a great design and good quality materials, basically feeling like entry-level luxury cars. But the design isn't everything, and ergonomics also play an important role, and that's what I appreciate most about this car. It's super easy to live with. The dashboard is built around the driver in a sense that it's super logical and easy to use. You get in this car and know what everything does. You get physical controls for things that you use pretty often, and the infotainment system is one of the most user-friendly ones on the market. No, it's not a touchscreen, but it has a controller, and let me tell you something, it's much easier and safer to use it. And if you really want to touch the screen, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto give you that capability. The gauge cluster is a blend of digital and analog gauges, and while it looks beautiful, it doesn't display much information. All you get is driving assistance information and a simple trick computer. It would be nice to have some media information or a navigation map. The storage in the center console and under the armrests are great. The door pockets also offer a good amount of space, and one of the biggest advantages of the hatch design is that you get pretty spacious and practical trunk, 20 cubic feet to be exact. Now, the Mazda 3 has always felt like a driver's car, and the 4th generation is no different. You can sit low to the ground, the front seats are comfortable and offer decent support. The biggest and honestly the only flaw of this cabin is rear headroom and legroom. While I can fit behind myself, I'm 6'1" by the way, I wouldn't want to travel there on longer distances. It seems like Mazda just didn't care much about rear passengers. There's no climate vents or charging ports, and those are the things that some competitors have. Anyways, that was the cabin of the Mazda 3, so let's get it on the road now and see how it drives. Okay guys, driving the Mazda 3. Now, the Mazda 3 has always been one of my favorite compact cars on the market for one simple reason: its driving dynamics. It's always been an engaging vehicle to drive, car that was chosen by enthusiasts, and now that Mazda 3 is more of a entry-level luxury product, it's more elevated, more luxurious, has more tech features. Did it lose that character, that element of fun? Well, we are on our favorite back road, so let's put it into sport mode. There is no drive mode selector per se. You can just flip the sport mode on. The steering will be a little bit heavier, and the transmission will change its programming to give you a little bit more aggressive shifts. You can even put it in manual mode and take a couple of those corners a little bit more aggressively. Again, as a reminder, we are driving the turbo model. We put premium gas in our vehicles, so we have 250 horsepower. If you decide to use regular, that number is going to go down to 227. The engine doesn't have any crazy characteristics. It's a typical turbo engine with big amount of low and mid-range torque. It dies at the end and doesn't rev up high, but that's totally okay. You'll appreciate it during everyday driving. During aggressive driving, like we're doing now, you're gonna appreciate that mid-range torque that really gets this thing going. Is it 250 horsepower quick? No. Does it feel like a hatchback? No, but you know what? I'm not complaining about the power. The driving dynamics are pretty good. I really like the steering. It's not the quickest steering, but its advantage is you can do those mid-corner corrections, and that really helps, and you get some feedback, which is not so obvious in 2025. The brakes, not the best. As a reminder, this isn't a performance vehicle, it's not a hot hatch, it's your daily, but they get the job done. Great body control. The car really likes to rotate. And yeah, it's super fun to drive. The gears don't get automatically changed when we hit the rev limiter, so you can keep it at the rev limiter. And this thing puts a smile on my face. It still has those driving dynamics that Mazda is known for. Section of those corners, boom, boom, and yeah. Alrighty, enough of that. Let's turn the sport mode off, put it into automatic mode, and talk about what it's like to drive the Mazda 3 on a daily basis. Really great. Now, granted, the suspension doesn't absorb the bumps as well as something like a Toyota Corolla or even a Kia K4, but it's still pretty refined over most road imperfections. We have 18-inch rims on our testers, so they take away some of that drive comfort from you, but living with this on a daily basis is great. The turbo engine provides a great amount of torque. We have a decent set of driver assistance systems. One thing about Mazda is they don't have a huge budget, so they cannot fully focus on developing technology in their cars. They want to focus more on driving dynamics, on how the car feels, and I really like that about Mazda. It's a product made for enthusiasts that's a little bit more mature for a Golf GTI. There's no longer Focus ST on the market in the US, so it doesn't really have a direct competition. The Civic Si has a little bit less power. It's offered with a manual transmission, and it might be a little bit more engaging to drive. This is a more mature product that is pretty refined. At highway speeds, the cabin is pretty quiet. There isn't much road and wind noise, and overall, I really like this thing. And besides its price tag, $38,000, this is a very interesting proposition. And if I was in the market for a compact car, I would probably pick the Mazda 3 Hatch Turbo. Anyways, that's all I wanted to say about the Mazda 3, so let's jump into the final thoughts and summarize this thing. Okay guys, summing up the Mazda 3 Turbo Hatch. I'm not gonna lie, I really like this thing. At this stage of my life, married with no kids, it checks all the boxes. It's fun to drive and has a decent ride comfort, very well made cabin, and since it's a hatch, it offers extra practicality that sedans don't. Only the backseat isn't practical, but most people will pick SUVs for their family needs. Overall, it feels like an entry-level luxury product, and what comes with that is a price tag. $38,000 for our tester is a lot of money, and that's the territory of cars like an Audi A3 or a BMW 2 Series Grand Coupe. Now, you have to make a decision if you want a bare-bone model from BMW or Audi, or a nicely equipped car from Mazda. Anyways, if you guys have any questions about the Mazda 3, drop a comment and I'll answer them. Thanks so much for watching, I'll catch you all later.